Not the Footy Show.
I've got a really special group of boys, and there's the wider squad are actually a great group, but everyone continually told me about that we don't have passion, we don't have this, that, and everything around New South Wales. Well, it's completely wrong. You saw that last night.
Forward sizzle.
I sat through both press conferences and then Majors this morning. I don't know if you saw any of Billy's, but it's...
Yeah, I did, and I loved every minute.
Good everybody, up there, good start. Good everyone, welcome to episode 296 of Not the Footy Show. I'm Warrick Nicolson, that's Robb Cox, and it seems about right, Cocksmith, that in the history of this show, particularly of you and me doing podcasts together, it does generally take a New South Wales State of Origin victory to get us back in and podcasting, because that's what happened last night.
It did, mate, and it was a decider, and we won. And today's a beautiful day, even though it's a lovely sunny day. It's a beautiful day no matter what.
It would have rained and been horribly cold if we'd lost.
Who cares?
That's the feeling, you know, like,
yeah,
feel it in my bones.
Mate, it was. I'm sure we'll dissect the game in brief very soon, but it is a really nice feeling to have come back from 1-0 down, even though we did play 12 on 13, and that's the only time that Queensland got to beat us, by the way. But it's nice to come back and win one up there. A decider up there is even sweeter than a decider in Sydney.
It was, I know people would have heard the stats before the game, after the game, but it's 1994, 2005, and now 2024, Game 3 deciders, where New South Wales have emerged victorious. You touched on Game 1. I thought we didn't play horribly. Yes, we were down a player, but we didn't play horribly. Got blown out in the scoreboard, though. So the fact is, Queensland 38, New South Wales 10. That's what it is. Game 2, that first half was just pure enjoyment, wasn't it?
Wow. Mate, I thought that game was going to be 60. I thought we were going to be 60 points.
We were so good in that first half.
Yeah, and I think the referee intervened a little bit, to be honest, and I think that the players took their foot off the pedal because they knew that virtually they had enough leeway to do anything they wanted to in reality. But yeah, it was very sweet. 34-0 or 38-0 at halftime.
It was 32, I think, because we got to 30. We got to 38-18 was the final score. And I know there's a few Queenslanders, and you look, they were two-time defending champions. You know, they were going for a hat trick. You can have a bravado about, it's Game 3, we're going back to Suncorp, we never lose up there. You know what happened in Game 2, and that has happened before, where we've bounced back in Game 2 in a series and then fallen our face in Game 3. But the game itself, 14-4 was the final score, and it was 0-0 with, all but a Spencer Leniu brain melt with 15 seconds left in the first half from being 0-0 at half time. And I'm sitting there with my flatmate, and we've watched Origins together for a long time, and it was funny how there was a sense of deflation that we hadn't taken any advantage with all the field position that we had in that first 40.
Yeah, I felt the same, yeah.
And you're sitting there and we're having the chat, like, how many times are we going to run inside balls? How many times are we just going to not play off the back and play out to Edwards at the back? We just refused to do it. We were playing at the line the whole time. But what we probably hadn't appreciated as much as what maybe Maguire and the players had is how much they'd just run over Queensland, except on the scoreboard. They'd run them down. That changed by Billy Slater 10 days ago, apparently, he tried to claim, of starting all these nif-nuffs. It made no impact on the way Queensland started from the game before. We just couldn't score a point. And it just seemed like, okay, maybe they are a little bit down, but we've got to be the first to score. And then, I don't know, second half started and we looked good. There wasn't a drop-off. And I know we didn't score until 15 to go to take the lead, etc. But I felt really good about things really quickly in that second half. Were you similar, even though we were down 2-0 before the penalty?
Yeah, look, I honestly didn't feel very good straight away. It took about 15 minutes into the second half before I started to really noticed some ascendancy. I've just got ghosts running through my head about being beaten by Queensland in Queensland when it seems like they can't win. So I'm a little bit gun shy on that one. Probably not as gun shy as Donald Trump. But anyway,
the Zach Lomax kick. Were you happy that he did that or not? As in, were you happy with the shot? Forget the fact he got it. Were you happy that we took the top?
Not really. Not really. At the time, I'm thinking we're down there. Let's just get the job done. But I also think, and I've got a rabbit warren of thoughts in my head, and Mitchell Moses was not playing great. I'll tell you now, he was not creating anything. His kicking game was supreme. It was a great long kicking game. I'm not here to.
He murders it,
mate. He kicks it from 30 metres out of his own line straight onto that 10-metre marker every time.
Yeah.
His long kicking game. There is nobody better in rugby league today than Mitchell Moses, but he was doing nothing as a 7. I'm just thinking to myself while we're watching it, I'm thinking, geez, I wish Cleary was there, or insert any other decent halfback, because if he hadn't have scored that solo try,
spoiler alert,
I would have given him a 6 out of 10 for that game. As it was, he only got a 7.5. But guess what? He's got the rest of the year off. So
he does. He takes the kick. He nails it from sideline. And I thought, again, just looked like Queensland didn't have anything in the chamber to shoot. They just, even when I think Ponga came on with 29 to go, he had a couple of nice touches early, and then after that, all he did was run across field the whole time trying to get into the game.
Well, so this is where I think Billy, the master coach Billy Slater, I think it's a fallacy, because Reece Walsh got bashed in that game, which is how to be fair, which is how you handle someone like Reece Walsh. Correct. You've got to give it to him. I would have brought Ponga on probably 30 minutes into the game, and I would have hooked Reece. Hindsight's a beautiful thing, but I was thinking it as it was happening. Ponga's got to get into this game. I didn't want him in the game, but I'm thinking, when are they going to bring him in? Because it's now about the time.
Correct.
So yeah, mate, it was a strange one, but So what happened after that?
So it goes to 2-2. Then I think there was a cross kick from us that Hamiso knocked on, but the referee missed it. Then we gave away a penalty. They came down the field, and then Reece Robson, who had an absolute storming game, she was good, knocks Harry Grant in the head, 2 points, and it goes to 4-2. So with 15 to go, we're down, but it doesn't feel like we're backpedaling.
It didn't feel like we're sliding away from the game
in 2 seconds. But then Maguire makes a couple of changes, and I'm sitting there all night, and I know Liam Martin has had some great games in Origin football. It's great games for the Panthers. That was not a great game from Liam Martin. And I have a thing with him at Origin level. I think he runs out of gas real quick. He finds his second or third win, but you can see at times he's just struggling. And on that Dearden break that he made in the first half, that was all on a real arm grab first from Moses and then from Martin. And I'm just going, just replace him. Get Barnett, who was just phenomenal. Like, as Origin debuts go, that's as good as it gets for a 30-year-old who hasn't been near rep football before. He was tremendous. But essentially what happens is we bring on Connor Watson for Reece Robson, and we take off Liam Martin and Barnett back out there. And our actual middles were looking really good. We had Haas on, we had Yo on, we had Murray on. We basically had our best defensive group on there in that, 60th to the 70th minute. And I know we scored 2 tries, but Queensland never looked like scoring a point when that group was out there. And you see the offload from Crichton to Watson, I think it was his first touch, was that offload that he then passed to Luai, which was, I don't know if you passed that. He did it anyway. Luai picks it up. And I don't know if you noticed and people go back and have a look at this. I know he got Wally Lewis Player of the Series, and it could even be just this play, but when Angus Crichton offloaded that ball to Watson, he goes down in the tackle. Watson picks it up and then squeezes it out to Luai. Have a look where Angus Crichton is when Luai picks up the ball, pretty much. He's already behind him, ready to support him. He's the one that offloaded before the offload. He just got up and he presented the chance that meant that I think it's Dearden and Gagai both get stuck watching.
Correction, it was Nanai, not Did. Got that wrong.
And it's because there's Angus Crichton back on his inside when Luai goes through the gap. And he's actually the other support player to Bradman Best. And Luai, who does things that I don't love, does stuff like this, I just adore because it's football. It's just that natural play off the cuff thing instead of stepping in 50 times. But he hits the gap, makes the break, and that pass to Bradman Best is one of the greatest Origin passes ever. It was. I know he almost knocked it on, but the perfection in the way he held it up and then beat the I think it was Gagai who was running on his inside with just the timing and the angle and everything was just majestic. And Rod Dane Gagai, who probably deserved his Origin recall, got exposed twice in defence on the play.
He looked like an old man last night, mate.
He did. And so Best does all the damage, gets in the try. And look, I'll give Bradman Best every credit in the world. Yes, he knocked on a few times, but he looked dangerous. He ran hard. He hit hard. I still would have picked Tommy because I just don't think you leave Tommy out. But what an amazing effort from Best. He was magnificent. So right rein pulled there. Madge. Lomax kicks it from the sideline and bends it the other way, which is not normally what he does. And he actually said it in the thing to Joey afterwards. I don't think I really meant to do that. And then we saw the Mitchell Moses moment. And how much fun is it to watch a player that you are critical of? And this is the same thing with Luai. And you think, you have the talent, you've got the ability, but there's things that hold you back. To see them actually do something in such a big moment that ultimately wins your state the shield.
Yeah. Hats off to Moses, mate. I mean, he like I say, the long kicking game that he's got, absolutely, especially last night's game, to a lesser extent in the second game as well. But, last night's game, it kept him in it, and it meant that we could get out of trouble whenever we needed to get out of trouble. I noticed Billy was moaning about Reece getting whacked a couple of times, but nearly every time Moses kicked the ball, he got whacked last night. He got whacked a few times. I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but I'm certainly not going to beat up on Ashley Klein for last night. The only thing that I didn't like too much was him calling it back 40 metres out, a potential penalty try.
Got to keep it interesting for the TV, mate.
He might have picked up a pill off the ground and swallowed it, I think.
I agree with you. I think he had an all right game. I had a massive issue with what he was letting happen in the ruck. I mean, the statistics on the amount of time both rucks took, I think New South Wales averaged 4 seconds to play the ball, which meant that probably all the normal play the balls were about 3:20 and every Pat Carrigan tackle was about 7 minutes and 43 seconds because that was one of the great performances I've ever seen from a player testing the patience of a referee. We got away with a fair bit, to be fair, but Madge actually said in the post-match, he said once the first set of 6 happened, that was the ruck speed. He goes, it is what it was. We didn't see too many truly soft penalties, which was good to see. There was a couple, but it happens. So Moses goes over, runs through. I was wishing him to get that ball down just a little bit faster because I could see Tommy did, and he had him. He saw his little opportunity. He scores. We kick the goal. It's 14-4. And I know there was still 10 minutes to go or 11 minutes to go.
Yeah, around 10 to go. Yep.
I know there are ghosts of the past, Cocksmith. Scared. I was really confident with 10 to go. I was really, really, really confident.
I was a lot more confident than I was 5 minutes before that.
Well, that helps in the score, yeah.
But, mate, I have seen in person Queensland do stuff that is just like, here we go again.
We beat them down.
We did. We played virtually for what we could. And, I mean, Queensland defence was, I don't know how they didn't get called offside at least 5 times in the first 10 minutes. But, look, their line speed was epic. They really did work really hard. And, I mean, obviously Billy had underlined that all week going into this, that their defence needed to be better and it needed to be vicious and it needed to be quick and all the rest of it. And they did respond. Queensland was so much better in this game than they were in game 2. I think game 1, because they scored so many points against a 12-man team, I think that gave them really an unfounded confidence going into game 2, and they got their pants pulled down in game 2 and just couldn't respond in game 3. We admittedly they had quite a few of their players out and big players. I'm not talking just fringe players. I'm talking Flegler and
Tino.
Munster and Tino, Tom Gilbert. They had a lot of genuine Origin players out. But, we didn't have a full team either. We had our star halfback.
We didn't have Latrell. We didn't have Cleary.
No,
and we
Latrell.
didn't have Tommy.
Yeah. I mean, we could have done slightly better as well. But ultimately, mate, you got to play what's happening on the field. And I think really, I honestly think that we couldn't have done better than what we did. We did really well. And unfortunately, the first 7 minutes of that first one, unfortunately, had everybody thinking we were gone.
Madge made a comment in his presser, and we'll get to Billy in a sec, but he did say, sort of echoing our first couple of thoughts of the show, was we'd shown some things in game one, even though we were down to 12. We'd shown some things, and he said he saw some things. He said he saw some attitudes and some, it's the old 1% of comment or play on words, but it's true. And to come out and have that performance in game 3 in what was an epic game, and look, we've been on that receiving end of games like that where we've given it our all and not been good enough. And Billy, to his credit, did sort of say, it wasn't so much as a loss as being defeated. And yeah, I'll give him credit on that. But I think it is time to shift to Billy quickly. We saw in the lead up to game 2 exactly why Billy Slater has no interest in being an NRL coach. He does not like the spotlight or the blowtorch being applied to what his decision-making is. He cannot cop it. And his way of dealing with it is to deflect, is to not do press conferences, is to tell everybody that the sun is shining beautifully. And it got away with it in game 2 because the game series was on the line. He doubled down on the Capewell, who actually played pretty well last night, I thought, the Capewell and Kaufusi decisions by starting both of them in game 3. He left out D for Theta. When you're already down Tino, you're down Gilbert, you're down Munster, you're down whoever. So forget about having a player that actually can make an impact. Let's pick guys who have been there before. Well, they may have been there before, but it's because they had those players next to them. They're not there this time. Yeah. So you're relying on impact from players that just don't provide that. And as a New South Wales fan, I'm sitting there going, Billy, keep it going, mate. Just keep doing the things you're doing. Keep following the script that you think is worked for 2 years. It's not. It's different. You've got to adjust. And credit to Madge. This is why I wanted to just sort of bring Billy up to go to Madge, is that he brought in Latrell in game 2 when he probably could have picked him in game 1. He made the decision to move on from Nico once that Moses was available.
Well, in saying that though, Moses was his second pick all the way along behind Cleary, and then he was injured and just wasn't able to play that first game. So Nico really wasn't fired. He was just overlooked for what Madge had picked beforehand, and dare I say it, poor Nico. I do feel sorry for him playing in a 12-man team. He's been put into situations in Origin both times that have been almost unwinnable. He made one missed tackle the year before. He was a little bit off his game in Origin 1, except they had 12 players. So when you got 12 players, especially for 73 minutes, if you're going to beat a 13-man team, you want 100% from all your 12 players to beat a 13-man team. And they just weren't up to it. Nico wasn't up to it that night. But
quick question for you. Is he this generation's Jason Taylor?
Look, I maybe so. Maybe he is. Maybe he will
club level. Takes his team through the regular season and gets to the pointy end, and it's not necessarily his fault or Jason Taylor's fault. It's just you come up against players that ultimately are better than you.
And you know what? We've spoken about this one before. I think not in this level, but I think Origin I think it's the best, right? I think it's unbelievable. But I don't think every player is an Origin player.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go back to players that have played 1 or 2 games, right? And I always refer to this one, Nathan Merritt, one of the best club wingers that you'll ever likely come across. If Origin wasn't a thing, he could have gone down as maybe in the top half a dozen wingers ever.
The finishers, yeah.
Probably, But he played that one Origin game and he had a Barry Crocker, and unfortunately will be remembered by many because he was unable to rise to the occasion, whether it be the night or whether it just be, him as a player. So unfortunately, Origin is there, and it's only a select few that can dominate at it. Some players, don't go guy, have played better at Origin over the years than they did for their club.
Well, look at the snapshot of the decision that Madge made on the bench for this game 3. Amoli barely cited in his 2 efforts in game 1 and 2. Not necessarily his fault. But Mitchell Barnett. The opportunity comes up when Crichton gets his neck burnt. And I don't know how he didn't do more damage to it. He probably has since, but he gets the opportunity where he doesn't have to think about it. He just has to run and throw his body in. And he's instantly like, I hate doing the old cliche of Channel 9, but he's an Origin player. He is.
Yeah.
One performance. I'm going to sound harsh here, and I'm not trying to be mean or anything. That's not the point. But sometimes you'll get a player where they'll go, "Oh, he's an Origin player. He'll make it. He'll throw himself into Origin." Hudson Young, he's had 2 chances.
Yeah,
hasn't looked the business. He just hasn't. No. It hasn't looked like it's his arena. And yet, you would have said the way he kind of, the tough sort of, But Mitchell Barnett answered the call a huge way. And quickly on the New South Wales pack, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to the whole group. But Payne Haas, best game I've seen him play for New South Wales. Yeah. Isaiah
both games 2 and 3, I think.
Fantastic. Cameron Murray did exactly what we were hoping to get: leg speed, good defence. Leniu did everything except that stupid thing before halftime pretty well. Watson comes in, and I know Jake only played 20 minutes, and I know he's sort of there for more than just the performance in the field, but it's all a sum of parts. That's what a team is, and you've got to find your way of getting around it. It's just such a good feeling, Cocksmith. We won.
It's great. I honestly do think that the Jake thing. I think we got away with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think we got away with it. I do believe that Madge might have gone off a little early in naming him captain, because you can't fire your captain really. Once you've named him at the start of a series, it's really hard to fire him. I'm not sure he got the output out of Jake that Jake's been able to offer in the past. And so therefore, I think Madge might have gone home thinking, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do? Like, I can't fire this bloke. Even though it was against a 13-man team. I don't think you'll see Jake there again. I think that'll be Jake's, probably his last Origin series.
I think his hope is something that we've spoken about for years, is the role playing in an Origin forward pack especially. Spencer Leniu, that's the role. It's 15 minutes, 1,000 miles an hour. Jake Trebojevic,
he played more than 15 last night, though.
But it's 15 minutes of defend your heart out. You don't need players that play 80 every week in their club football stacking your bench. You don't, if you're going to rely on guys like Yo and Haas for 60 minutes. I just think that it's about picking the guy who can fit that role better rather than necessarily picking the
I get what
front rower going around at that point in time.
I get what you're saying, but let's just play devil's advocate for a moment and say that Yo goes on, and in the first 5 minutes he gets an HIA and can't come back on. Mm-hmm. Then you've got Gerbo, who, at Origin level is probably not good for anything more than 30 minutes.
I can't believe you're saying bad things about New South Wales captain.
No, mate.
How dare you?
You know what? I think Jake Trebojevic is one of the nicest guys in rugby league and a fantastic player. But he's not getting any younger. And I think we'll find that there'll be another captain next year. It'll probably be Yo, if all goes well. But
I thought he handled the old brouhaha Melly thing quite well. Yo, he wasn't whinging like old mate DCE was.
DCE
started. I don't want to go down that road because it's a negative aspect of the pod, but it just, I like it when DCE gets angry because he stops playing football. That's my theory.
Yeah. But DCE started it and then wanted to rate the referee on what he did. I actually thought that Luai started it when I first saw it. And then when they showed a replay, it's like he just reacted to what you did.
Within his comment in the presser, and we're not going to grab up in a sec, people, is he said, "I'm so proud of all my teammates rushing to my aid." And then the very next breath, but the New South Wales bloke who rushed to his teammates' aid, send him off.
Yeah, send him off. Exactly right. Exactly right.
Sorry, what?
Let me tell you this. Let me tell you this. Apparently, according to Mark Geyer, apparently one of the big things that Madge brought into camp this year from the first minute was he played the playing group that video of Burton getting beaten up last year by who was it? It was
it was away from
Tino and Gagai, I think, might have got him.
Yeah, no one ran him.
And apparently Madge made a real point going through the whole, like not just from one thing, but multiple times, showed him the video and said, this is not going to happen again. This is not happening. If one in, we're all in. And so, I think I think that was, we've seen a different mentality in the New South Wales team this year. They seem much hungrier. They seem much more aggressive. And I think Madge has brought that because Madge is a pretty aggressive style of coach. And let's be honest, Freddie's a lover, not a fighter.
There was a comment from Freddie in the game that I thought was a bit telling. He was talking about it was mentioned which Moses scored, I think. He goes, "Oh, this is the kind of football that you've got to play in big games." And I'm like, you coached us for a lot of years, mate, and you didn't let us play football like that all the time. You didn't. And I know things have got to go right. And I love the fact that he celebrated the victory. Like a lot of people may not have wanted to be in the, after that
I get that
as coach. So we win. I'm happy. You're happy. Billy's not happy. Does Billy come back next
and that makes me even happier.
Does Billy take the job again next year? I know he's got a contract. Let me just throw it out there.
Yeah, I think he does.
You reckon he does?
He's got 300,000 reasons too, mate. I mean, the $300,000 a year job.
I reckon the whole Fafita thing and the story that kept pestering around that, as I go back to allude what I said earlier in the show, I just think that's something that he does not want to deal with. And we saw it a little bit when he played for Melbourne. And when the blowtorch got applied, he didn't like it.
What I find interesting, the story thread that I find interesting in all of this is, we know that Danny Weidler can sometimes get involved in some scuttlebutt and some ugly journalism. But for him to label Danny Weidler and the network as fake news that he works for and probably cops $500,000 a year from, that's going to be an interesting conversation with somebody.
It's the Queenslander way, though, mate. We're all Queenslanders. We can do what we like. That's what we lose.
Yeah, we're still Queensland. That's going to be an interesting conversation. Because let's say he walked away from both Queensland and the Channel 9 job. It's probably somewhere between, all up, $700,000 and $900,000 worth of pay. I don't know. If I was Billy, I'd be really watching myself as far as that goes, because there's plenty of ex-football players that want to commentate.
And the last point I'll make on Billy, and I'm sort of being a little bit facetious around the whole will he not walk away, but just remember the Melbourne job will open up in a couple of years. Jason Riles is now at Parramatta. The succession plan that was mooted is now completely out of, Does Billy want to go from, the pressures of the Origin arena straight into a club job if he took it? I'm not saying he will, but that's if he took it. Or would he want a couple of years off again to prepare himself? Just something to consider. Just something to consider.
Well, here's something else to consider. Let's just pretend for a moment that Jason Riles goes well at Parramatta for 2 of the 3 years and the Melbourne job comes up. Let's say he goes well. Let's say he gets him into the top 8 for 2 years in a row and the Melbourne job comes up. Do you think for 1 second that Riles won't be putting his application in? I think he will.
I think he will. Last thing, as we wrap the show up, episode 296, your top 3 players from the series. I know Crichton got Wally Lewis Medal. Is he your number 1?
Angus Crichton, for sure. His brother Stephen was pretty darn good too. And Dylan Edwards only played 2 games, as did.
I didn't think he was the best player on the field last night, just myself. But he was really good, but he wasn't the best player.
He was certainly better than the other fullback.
Which one? There's about 7 of them, weren't there?
Reece. What can I say? Angus Crichton, Stephen Crichton. Wow, you've got me now. I'll tell you who really surprised me and who probably played themselves into an Aussie jersey potentially last night was Tom Dearden.
He never gives up.
Oh, mate, I mean, for a bloke that only weighs 80 kilos, he defended front-on defence was fantastic. I reckon he went up another notch last night, Tom Dearden.
I just wish he would have been harsh, but I just don't think he's quite got the playmaking. He's got the running game, he's got the show and go, he's got the defence, he's got the agency. Just the natural playmaking stuff, I think, has been shunted away a little bit playing second fiddle to the Chad at the Cowboys the last couple of years.
Well, yeah, and so, maybe it has, but maybe he's transformed himself into a really good six, which is, Lomax played good, mate. I don't know. What do you think? I've got my 1 and 2. What are you thinking?
I adored what Angus did, but he's my third player for the series. 1 and 2, it's 1A, 1B. It's Luai and Moses. They were dominant in game 2. We won by 30 odd, and they both came up with the 2 biggest plays in game 3.
I can't give it to Moses. I just can't because not because as you know, and history will tell you that I don't like him.
And I'm not a huge fan, but I'm giving him the raps here because I think he deserves it.
I just can't because he had so many opportunities in the first 3 quarters of the game to put plays on with the team, and just seemingly uninterested.
As I tweeted, doesn't matter how many you win by, just that we win, and we won.
No. I'm more than happy we won, and like I say, I'll take my hat off to Moses for what he did add last night, but I think he could have and should have added more.
Well, I'm very happy that all they did was they brought us the shield back. But I think it's the last 6 years, it's 3-3.
Yep.
So, very interesting to see what happens. Look, there's plenty to talk about Origin this time next year. We'll enjoy the next 12 months as Origin champions, people.
I guess that's when we'll talk again next, eh?
No, come on. We're getting out of the buys. We've got to run into September. I'm walking again. It's all happy days.
Well, that's good. That's good, mate. I'm glad to hear that you're up and walking. I know you were stuck in your apartment for a while there and you couldn't get out.
I still am to a degree. But yeah, I'm in a moon boot and walking around. I had the Achilles reconstruction, people, so it's been fun. And Cocksmith's been sojourning around Australia and the world, seeing the sights. So we'll try and
a bit around the world.
We'll resume things relatively regularly. Both our teams are actually. There's a chance that you may actually win the dinner prize this year. Dragons, mate. What's happened? Is it back on this year because you're ahead, or what?
Yeah, let's go double or nothing.
Can we just clean this slate and start from this year? Is that how it works? All right.
Yeah, why not? I'll collect.
In Flano, we trust. I've been Warrick Nicolson. That's been Robb Cox. New South Wales 14-4, 2-1 in the series. Madge 1-0 in the Origin arena, and I just guess the passion that we showed for half an hour when we were going to talk for 10 minutes shows that maybe New South Wales do get Origin, eh?
I think we might get Origin, mate. I'm not sure Queensland get it though.
We'll let them play each year though, just so we have an opposition. That's how
better do that.
That's worked. We'll speak to you next time on Not the Footy Show, people. Take us out, Cocksmith.
Pepsi.
Not the Footy Show.
You've been sleeping over there?
Pepsi.